Have you ever heard the saying, what do you get when you mix an elephant and a rhino?
No.
Do you know the answer?
No.
The answer is Elefino. And if you would have asked me how I would have made this decision, Elefino. It's like playing pin the tail on the donkey, right? And you blindfold yourself, they spin you, and then you try to make a precise, calculated movement to pin the tail on the donkey. And then you remove the blindfold, you remove it, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, that's not even on the donkey at all. It's on the wall next to the piece of paper holding the donkey. Mm-hmm. That's how I would have made that decision. So
just a wild guess.
You listing these things equips people to help them make an informed decision. That's super powerful because all of a sudden they have tools to help them see, like this is the outcome. This is the outcome that I want based on my values.
Let's make green together. Let's make green together. Let's make green together. Let's make green together.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Black and Brown Make Green. I'm Natasha.
And I'm Damien.
And today we wanted to talk about debt. Should you pay it off? When should you pay it off? Should you keep it? All of that good stuff. And we have some debts that we have decided to pay off early. We have some debts that we are hanging on to and paying off slowly. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, debt, like you said, sometimes you pay them off early if you can. Sometimes you hold on to them. It's like debt is definitely a gray area with our spending, with our contributing. Yeah, contributing.
Spending, contributing, whatever
that word is.
So one of the things that you probably know is that about a year ago, we bought a new car. And when we bought that car, we decided to get a loan on it, and we got a 3-year loan on it. We paid some money down on it, and then we decided to do a 3-year loan. And we decided to do that because the rate was a really low rate. And we had calculated, okay, we could just save the money that we use the money that we were going to use to pay for the car and pay it off slowly.
Hold on, pause. Let's put some numbers to this.
Okay.
Let's talk about the numbers. I don't remember what they are, but let's hear your take on what the numbers are.
The numbers.
Yeah. So you said a really low rate. What's a really low rate to you? What was the really low rate?
The rate was 2.99%, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And that was lower than what our bank was paying on our savings account, which was 4.5%, which is now 4.6%. So that was at least a percentage point lower than what we earn on the money that's sitting in our savings account.
Yeah. So the bank paying on our savings account, what she's talking about is a high yield savings account that's paying
4.6% right now.
4.6, yeah. And you're talking about the loan being 2.9.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, if you hold money in your bank account, it'll make more than you lose on the flip side of that equation.
Yeah.
Paying for a loan.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And so we thought that's what we would do. And then we got the loan. We started paying the loan, and this was in 2023. And what that meant was we were pulling from our savings each month in order to be able to pay for this because it didn't fit neatly into our budget at that point.
Yeah.
Because some other expenses had gone up, like daycare for Noah had gone up because we added some days for him. And that meant our budget could not withstand the additional payment, the car payment, in addition to all the other expenses that had increased. So we were definitely pulling from our savings to pay for it. And after maybe 9 months of paying on that bill, we both were like, I'm ready to be done with this.
It's funny. We looked at each other at the same time and didn't say anything. And we're like, both said the exact same words at the exact same time. And it was, let's pay the car off.
Yeah, we just got to a point where it just, for me, I didn't want to pull from the savings anymore on a monthly basis. I wanted to have a budget that was balanced on a monthly basis to where I'm putting stuff into savings versus I'm pulling stuff out of savings.
Yeah.
I want to be saving money, not, spending the money that I've already saved. And so this was around August, I want to say. And another reason why we decided to go ahead and pay it off is because I think you were getting some RSUs that were coming through. And we were like, okay, if you sell those stocks that are coming through, then we can use that money to pay off the car.
Yeah, RSUs are just stock that you get from a company, and it for all intents and purposes it's just a big batch of cash.
Yeah, like a bonus, essentially.
Yeah, like a bonus.
And so we could use that money to go ahead and just pay the rest of the car off, which was at that point about 2 years of payments that were left on it. And that's what we did.
Yeah. Yeah, so in that gray area, you talk about, oh, I should pay this off. I shouldn't pay this off, and I should maintain this and just kind of chip away at it. This is one of them where we gulped it all down and paid it all off at once.
And some people probably would say, why would you do that? Because you were making more money than you were not making by paying slowly on the debt. But sometimes it's not even about that. It's about, there's so many emotions and feelings when it comes to your money. Mm-hmm. And for us, you can see the emotions and the feelings was, I'm sick of this debt. I'm ready to get rid of it now. And so boom, we can get rid of it. Let's get rid of it.
Yeah.
And so that's the emotions that came into play on that one. But we also have a low mortgage rate on our mortgage. And with that one, at one point we were paying extra on the mortgage. And then we decided, oh no, let's slow pay this one.
Yeah.
Because our mortgage rate, let me think what it is. It's 3.375. And in the beginning, we were paying extra on it. And then this was when we were still kind of learning about investing. And then we're like, wait a minute. No, we need to invest this money because investing this is going to be way more beneficial than paying extra on this house.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to be debt free and not have this house payment, but it doesn't make sense when investing the money in the market, we could get 7 to 10% based on historical averages compared to us paying 3% on the mortgage.
Yeah.
So it's not just a 1% difference like it was with our savings account compared to the car loan. It's a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% difference, maybe even more depending on how the market is doing over the time when it comes to paying off the mortgage.
Yeah.
And so for that debt, we decided, let's stop paying extra.
The mortgage is funny. The mortgage is funny to me. It may not be funny to you, but I find it kind of ironic because Natasha fought tooth and nail to get us down to a 15-year mortgage when we remortgaged our house. We wanted a lower rate.
For them to give us the rate we wanted for the 15-year mortgage.
We wanted a lower rate, right? And we're so debt averse that we're like, let's just get it over with. Let's pay for this thing and let's just own it outright and live our merry lives, in the sunset and be done with it, right? And lo and behold, she got us a 15-year mortgage.
They gave us the rate that we wanted.
They gave us the exact rate
I wish I could remember
what
it was. I'm sure I have it written down somewhere, but I'm not going to look it up right now. But yeah, they gave us the exact rate we wanted for the 15-year loan. And
why did we not choose that 15-year mortgage?
Because it was going to increase our monthly costs.
To what?
And over $2,000.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact amount. And so just to give you some clear numbers, our mortgage in the beginning was $1,482. See my memory. It was $1,482 when we first bought this house. And then a couple years later, I think it was maybe 3, 4, 5 years into it, we decided to refinance for a lower rate. And we were presented, I said, this is what we want. We want a 15-year mortgage. We want it at this rate. This is when you can negotiate. First of all, if you have not ever negotiated things, everything is negotiable. Okay. Everything.
Yeah.
The worst I can say is no.
Yeah.
I remember when I first learned this was when we rented an apartment. We used to watch this cleaning show. I think it may have been called like Lush or something like that. But it was an Australian lady cleaning homes and things. And one of the things she talked about was you can negotiate your rent price. And I was like, what? You can negotiate your rent, which it's crazy that I had forgotten about this because I did this when I was in college. So I don't know why, as I got a little bit older, I forgot about it. But I remember when we moved into our condo, like we negotiated a lower rent price for committing to a 2-year lease instead of doing a 1-year lease.
Yeah.
So anyway, things are negotiable. So don't be afraid to ask people for what you want. And that's what we did when it came to the mortgage refinancing. We asked for this specific mortgage rate on a 15-year loan, and they gave it to us. And I was like, oh, dang, they did it. But then I was like, oh, no. That is going to push us to a point. Paying over $2,000 a month is going to push us to a point to where our daily living is going to be tight.
Yeah.
So that's adding at least $800 to what we have been paying. And that just didn't make sense. It didn't feel like the type of lifestyle we wanted to live.
Yeah, and that's where we came into having to make a tough decision because we really, really wanted that 15-year mortgage, right? Mm-hmm. This is part of the gray area because we wanted to be done with it. We would have been done with it while the kids were still in school. Mm-hmm. And we would have just, been debt-free completely. And only had to pay for things that are income and outgoing, like electricity or food or, like things that we desire or want, vacations, things like that.
So just to continue a little bit on with that, so we also asked them for like a 30-year loan rate to see what we would get. And that refinancing to a 30-year would take our mortgage from $1,400 to $1,100, which is 11. What is it? 11? Is it like 1180? Right now? It's like 1180 right now. And so I ran the calculations and I figured, if we just pay the same rate we have been paying, which was the $1,400 towards the mortgage, we'll still have this thing paid off in the earlier time frame, in that same amount of time that we were on track to pay it off. And we decided not to do that either. Yeah.
So like all of the signs are pointing towards, let's just not pay the house off early in any way, any shape, any form. But then the other things that we finance, they're not necessarily the same.
Yeah, everything there's so much that goes into these decisions that it's not just black and white. So the reason why we decided not to pay extra is that we just decided, well, let's just send that extra $300 to the investment account instead of paying extra towards the house.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes more sense. The earlier you invest, the longer that money has to grow. And so it made more sense for us to put money over here where we can grow our money more so than paying the debt on the mortgage would do for us. And so that's how we kind of decided to get rid of the car loan, but to keep the house loan.
Yeah.
So you really have to kind of think through what makes the most sense for you in that situation. And it's not going to be the same for every person. For some people, it's like, no, I'm going to pay this house off early because that's just what I want to do. Mm-hmm. The same as how that's what we wanted to do when it came to the car loan. That may be what other people want to do for the house loan. And then also, mortgage rates have gone way up.
Yeah.
So if we had an 8% mortgage or a 7% mortgage most people have now, trust and believe we would be putting extra towards the mortgage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because that right there, the return to the market, 7 to 10%, you're right there in that same range for the mortgage loan. So I would definitely be putting extra towards the mortgage if my rate was that high.
So let me ask you this then. Being a financial professional like you are, there are some tools that exist to help you make this decision, right? Like, what are those tools?
You can find a calculator, like a mortgage payoff calculator.
Okay. And
you can see, like, if you put extra towards the mortgage, how long is it going to take you to pay it off? And then you can also find a calculator, a compound interest calculator, to where if you put in how much money do I already have invested, if I take this extra money that I was going to put into the mortgage, let's say it's $300 a month, and then plug it in for the same amount of time that it was going to take you to pay that house off. Let's say you were going to pay it off in 15 years by paying the extra. Then how much is that $300 going to be worth at the end of that 15 years? By the time you get there. And then even going further, you could see, like, if I go further down the line, how much is that money going to be worth? So you can kind of see the comparison of, this is the interest I'm going to save if I pay the mortgage off early by using that mortgage payoff calculator or early mortgage payoff calculator. And then with the compound interest calculator, you could see this is the money that I would earn at the end of the same time period based on a 7% return in the market.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you might see, oh, wow, that number is way bigger over here on the compound interest calculator than it is over here on the early mortgage payoff calculator. So for those two things, like those are the calculators that you can use.
Have you ever heard the saying, what do you get when you mix an elephant and a rhino?
No.
Do you know the answer?
No.
The answer is, hell if I know. And if you would have asked me how I would have made this decision, hell if I know. It's like playing pin the tail on the donkey, right? And you blindfold yourself, they spin you, and then you try to make a precise, calculated movement to pin the tail on the donkey. And then you remove the blindfold, you remove it, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, that's not even on the donkey at all. It's on the wall next to the piece of paper holding the donkey. Mm-hmm. That's how I would have made that decision. So
just a wild guess.
You listing these things equips people to help them make an informed decision. That's super powerful because all of a sudden they have tools to help them see, like this is the outcome. This is the outcome that I want based on my values.
Yeah, and these things are accessible. The thing about it is the internet has so many free tools like this. I'm not paying for these tools. Like they just exist. I know. So for instance, I know a lot of people tend to have credit card debt that they are trying to pay down, which if we had credit card debt, then we would be paying that down early as well. Mm-hmm. Because credit card debt, you typically are paying 20% interest rates.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And honestly, it can go up to as high as they want to set it at. But I've seen some rates that are as high as 35%. And so you are being charged so much every single day just for having a balance on your credit card if you're not paying that off in full each month. And so like credit card debt, that's one where it's a no-brainer. You always pay that off essentially in my book, unless you have like a 0% card where you are not getting charged interest. Then even still, if you don't decide to pay that one off in full at the beginning, I'm making sure that I'm paying enough to pay this off in full before the interest rate kicks in.
Yeah.
So like if you have like 12 months of 0% interest, then it's like, okay, I'm going to break this number down to make sure before this 12 months hit, this card is paid off.
And that'll sneak up on you.
Yeah. So with that, one of my favorite resources to like figure out your debt payment order for credit cards is by Vertex 42. They have this debt reduction calculator. You can put in all of your debts that you owe, not just credit cards, but credit cards it's really great to put in there. Put all your credit cards in there or whatever debts you have, and then you can figure out what's the best order to pay them off in. It tells you this is how long it's going to take you to pay it off. This is the exact date when you'll have it paid off. This is how much interest you're going to save by doing it. So that's one of my favorite tools.
And these things are useful because they show you that there are decisions to be made, right? And then you have to pick. You have to say, oh, this is how my values align to the problem that I found myself in.
Values. That is so important that you said that, because when you're trying to decide, should I pay this debt off? Should I keep this debt? A part of it is values.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the math doesn't make sense to pay a loan off early.
Yeah.
Like with our car loan, the math doesn't really make sense to pay it off early.
Yeah.
But the value system of what we want out of life, how we want it to be as easy as possible, to be as stress-free as possible. Like, I don't want to transfer money from savings to checking every month to pay this off. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to have it set up to where money is moving from my checking into my savings each month or into my investments each month. And so values is very important when it comes to deciding, how am I going to pay this stuff off?
Yeah. And if you survey 100 people, maybe 75% would not have made the same decision that we would have. Mm-hmm. And that's why you call it personal finances and not crowdsourced finances. And in the end, on the other side of that, we get to go and say, okay, well, we're going to take a vacation on a whim,
Yeah.
and be very on the spot with things and say, okay, next weekend we're going to go on a vacation. And then we do it, right? And we can afford it. And that's what makes it personal, right? Because we want that flexibility.
Yeah, definitely. And the one thing that I would say is, even like when I work with people one-on-one, I'm not telling them how to pay their debts off.
Mm-hmm.
Like the choice is always yours. Like you are the one who's in control, and you decide what makes the most sense for you. And so you have to be aware of yourself and what you want and what your goals are.
Yeah.
And how you want to reach those goals.
Yeah, you don't project your value system onto other people. You extract theirs out of them and help them like refine, shape, harden their own values probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to say about paying off debt, I want to throw this one thing out there. So like part of my value system, if I had credit card debt, because I want to save the most money, I would probably use what's called the debt avalanche method with paying off credit card debt, meaning I would put my credit cards in order from highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. And then I'd pay that highest interest rate card off first.
Yeah.
Most likely. But a lot of people choose to do a different method called the debt snowball method, which is when you put those debts in order from the lowest amount you owe to the highest amount you owe, so that you can see, oh, check that one off the list. Oh, check that one off the list. Because then you'll see debts being pulled away or being completely paid off quicker sometimes than if you went the debt avalanche route. But then sometimes it makes sense to like combine and make a custom plan of how to pay your debts off. So everything, it just really comes down to what makes the most sense in your life.
Yeah, so it's funny because you get to peer inside basically the psychology of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And to understand how people make their decisions, because you don't track them into a decision. It's like your job is to understand their value system and to position like a solution for their value system. Solutions, yeah.
Because then there's choice,
Yeah, there's always choice, yeah.
Yeah. So paying off debt is very personal. You can hear from our own stories of how we've decided to pay off some debts, is that it's not just the numbers, but it's also the emotions behind the numbers. Mm-hmm. And that's true for so much when it comes to money. Like what you do is going to be different from what my family does. And that's just how it is. And that's fine. I think it's fine to say the way that you do it is great and the way that I do is great. There's no wrong way to do your money. Like you have to make those decisions. Obviously, you want to do something that's probably going to put you in better positions. And I think that's just the most important thing.
Right. And you should be able to talk about it with your friends if you want to, if you choose to. And you shouldn't feel like you need to justify things beyond that's just the way I do things.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that, Damien. And for those of you listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Join us for the next one, and let's make green together.
Let's make green together. Let's make green together. Let's make green.